So, welcome, Christy. How are you?
Hi, I'm so good. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, I'm really glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about what you do and a little bit about the journey that led you into the work that you're doing now.
Okay, so I'm an author and I'm also a Reiki healer. And the way here was kind of long. Um, I started off when I was very little by always having spirits around me. And even though I didn't really know what they were, then, I knew I had a man sleeping in my room and breathing as a child. And he would then on and off come and go and during my adolescence. And then I was interested in spiritualism and I was interested in um, you know, uh, what is it, like fortune telling and things like that, like a lot of kids are. And then I kind of left it there because I was a teenager. I was, kind of a partier, whatever. Then when I was 26, my parents passed away suddenly in a ferry accident. And that changed everything. So from being, um, you know, very kind of dependent on my parents still and thinking that they would always be around, they were just pulled away from me and my two sisters as well. And at that point, when they had passed, just to explain it, they passed in a ferry accident. So it was a huge, like the biggest peacetime accident in Europe. So it was kind of like it reminded me of September 11th, or September 11th reminded me of that, because it's the kind of experience when so many people die and it's day after day of like listening to the radio and listen, where are they, were they found, did they survive? um, Obviously an extremely tragic event in my life, but also sometimes I find the universe like slaps you over the head and says like, okay, you have to change your ways. And I remember being in a radio interview just after and hearing the other people in the room who were also being interviewed asking why. And for me, I never asked that. I thought it was strange because I knew, as much as I would love to have them back, I knew it was supposed to happen. And
Mm.
and then when they died, I was at one night, I was sitting in front of the television and it was midnight. So TV in Sweden, I grew up in Sweden, uh, the television turned off, or like the programs ended, I turned it off and I sat and talked to mom and dad. And I'm like, why can't I see you? Like, why haven't you come back in spirit? Like, I know other people, like I've read so many stories about other people and their grandma or somebody comes and shakes their bed and wakes them up. And why can't I see you? And all of a sudden there's this rattle in this rattan cupboard. And I thought, this is so weird. So I ignored it. And then it got louder. So I thought, okay, this is like, what is it? Rats? Like, it was about, a month after mom and dad died. And their bodies at that time had been found. And we had kind of emptied the house. So I'm like, is like mice? What is it? So I go in, I open the door, and there's this warm wind of love just going through me. And I knew at that point that there is life after death. I mean, they were not dead. They were not here, like in physical form, but they were still around. And that started off like go into mediums and like communicating with my parents and like building this faith in the spiritual world and connection. And mom and dad, they would come and like move things and rattle things, and they would hide things and bring them back. So we started joking about it. We're like, oh mom, what are you doing? you know why can't you be quiet? And we're like thinking like, oh, do they see us like when we go to the bathroom? Like, do they see us when, you know, when we have sex? You know, those
Yeah.
kind of things. And, you know, obviously like they're not interested in that. but but it's like I got used to the idea of spirits on the other side, and starting reading more and more about books about channeling and, you know, life after death and life before life is actually one of the best books I ever read. A woman who hypnotized people who and brought them back, and then brought them back before they were born. And the spirits then told about, or the people she talked to then in hypnosis, they told a story about how they chose their parents and their lives and everything. Fascinating. Anyway, so I ended up in New York, and in New York I I went to this medium, and this medium said to me, look, there's this thing every Tuesday, I think you will be interested in it. And he didn't really tell me much more than that. He's like, yeah, I think you should go. So I went, and I, like, by myself, I go into this like man's home on the Upper West Side, and there's these people sitting on the couches, and it's like very intimate, like maybe 15 people, and there's this man, and you know, he, like, we pay him like $20 each, I think it was at the time, and then he goes into trance, and then spirits start talking through him, and it was fantastic. And he's a very gifted medium, so he's given sessions in the UN way back when. His name is Alex Murray, lives in New York still. Now he's a little bit older and not as well as he was at that time. Anyways, this is a long story, but so Alex had these meetings every Tuesday. So we would go, he would have spirits talk through him, and then he would give personal messages. Then after a while, after a year or so, he said, oh, I should teach you to channel. So then I started channeling, and also everything goes kind of like steps on a path, you know. It's like one thing leads to another, and then leads to another, and leads to another. So I started channeling. There was this group of Polish people. They said, oh, you should come and channel for us. And I thought they had invited me to, you know, we all channel together, like, let's try it out. And they said, no, you channel for us. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. And I did. So little by little, I got more and more comfortable in it. So
And so tell me a little bit about what that looks like to channel.
okay.
What do you actually do?
So I go into, I don't go into complete trance like my teacher did. I go into half trance. So I'm aware what's going on, and I just go in, and then I protect myself with white light and loving light. I ask only for good spirits to come through, and then I just sit there, and then somebody just starts talking. So it's like using your body for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's so many movies that are like, you know, where people are faking it. So I don't channel people who have passed over. I only channel spirits, and I don't do really crazy voices. It's still my voice, but it's like the messages come through, and I've channeled people who I've later like looked up and did exist at some point. So it's a lot about, I don't really do that any longer, but it's kind of like the messages that come through are very loving and it's more of an advice than predicting the future and stuff like that. So yeah.
And do you do a lot of channeling still, or do you do mostly Reiki now?
No, now I do Reiki. So I stopped doing channeling, and I used to do readings as well, but then I stopped doing it at a while because I don't like the pressure, because people want certain messages, and when they don't get those messages, they get upset. And I can't help anyone. I don't have a magic wand. So I can only advise somebody to kind of like you do, I guess, in your work. Like, you give advice and you say, these are the 5 steps that I recommend that you take, but you have to take them. Like, I cannot take them for you, and it's not gonna, change
Right.
in one day or in one time. Like, you have to try again and try again and try again.
Right.
So, but what was great about the channeling was that it led me to Reiki. So then I started practicing Reiki. So I started with this fabulous teacher who unfortunately passed away. But we had classes at the Open Center in New York, and instead of being like many Reiki classes are just one weekend, we had a whole year. So we went really in depth and like studied all about like acupuncture points and about the body. And I have like this book, like medical book with all the like things in the body, and it really went into depth. And yeah, so that's what I do a lot more nowadays.
Can you tell whoever's listening that may not be familiar with Reiki exactly what that is and what that looks like?
Sure. So Reiki is a hands-on healing. So it's I, as the practitioner, would channel the healing energy from the universe. Again, it's the same as channeling. Just take a step back. Channeling is not only like talking about spirits, talking like letting spirits talk through you. Channeling is anything you do when you're a speaker and like the speech flows, or when you're a dancer and the dancing is just fantastic, or you're a singer and you like really connect. Channeling is all that. It's not really hocus pocus. It's really when you connect to your higher self or God or the universe or whatever you'd like to call it. So Reiki then is channeling the healing energy, because the Reiki practitioner is not the healer, it's the channel for the healing power. I don't have the power to heal, but the universe does, or God, or spirit. So what you do is like you put your hands, you absorb the healing energy into your body, and then you put your hands on the person wherever you're kind of instructed to go. There are things that you can do, specific things, like you can start with the head and move on. Like if you don't feel comfortable in doing it, you can do that. But usually a practitioner who has done this for a while will know where the energy needs to go. And what it does then is that it flushes the energy through your body. And if you have any like blockages in your energy, or if you have problems, like it can be a physical problem, it can be a mental problem, the Reiki energy can help just like loosen it up, so it like flows through, and it can flow like out of your body and get it, instead of getting stuck. Reiki is different from other healing modalities because we use symbols. So when you start it, you get kind of imbued with the different symbols, and you use them in your channeling to make the energy stronger.
Now, let me ask you this. If somebody has never done Reiki before and they kind of don't believe in it, but they're willing to give it a try, will it actually work? Will you still be able to channel the healing energy even though they're not really believing it?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So when I started, we had a class of maybe like 30 people, and some people said, I don't feel anything. This is not working. this is rubbish. But the person who was receiving the Reiki was like, oh no, I could really feel it. And I'm like, all of a sudden, like, even if you do it, you can do it hands off. And the person who is receiving the Reiki will know where the person sent the healing energy. So yes, it will work even though you don't believe in it. And I believe that anyone can heal. Like, anyone can heal with their hands, like the mothers do, for example, with their children.
And we're talking about emotional and physical healing.
Yes.
Right? Because
yes.
I remember when I did Reiki, and I had a really big problem with my hip, and I didn't tell her. I didn't say anything. And she just kept staying there. She's like, do you have something going on in your hip? And I'm like, yeah, actually, it's killing me. So it was really interesting. But I was just wondering, like, if you're suffering from a heartache, would you be able to know that? Would you feel that? Like, if you're just emotionally overwrought or grief-stricken, or...
Sometimes you don't feel like what the person is thinking or feeling, but you're guided to the place where the healing will work. So the person who's receiving Reiki doesn't need to say, like, I'm heartbroken, like, I'm so sad, but the Reiki energy will go there. So, and sometimes it's not even like, if it's a heartache, it doesn't need to be the heart that's touched. It can be the feet, and that's how it, like, the energy starts moving. Yeah.
I go to this acupressurist every now and then, and he is, I don't know what he did, but the first time I went in there, I don't know what he touched in my back, but I just started laughing hysterically. I was laughing so hard, I was practically on the ground. Then he started laughing, and the two of us were laughing for about the first 15 minutes of the session. But it was like he had released some really stored up something for me.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's funny that I even mentioned him, because I ran into him today. And I was like, really? Wow, George. Yeah.
Remember how we were laughing?
Yeah, I said, I've been wanting to meet you, to see you again, and here you are. Yeah. So how do you think, so right now you're doing Reiki, but you do other things, right?
Yeah. So I write now. So all this, the next step of it, I guess, led me to writing. And I had this interest in, for many years, like, with the whole spiritual, like, development, I started thinking about different religions. And I'm not religious, so it kind of interests me how other people are deeply religious and why they're deeply religious. And I've traveled a lot. So I've traveled in, like, Muslim countries and Hindu countries, Buddhist countries. My former boss was Orthodox Jewish. My husband's family, they're Catholic. I grew up Protestant, but not religious. So I started, thinking about what is it that makes, the religions different, and how are they, don't they all really, like, come from the same root? And so it was an idea that was, like, moving around in my mind for quite a while. And I, I wanted to write something. I wanted to start researching, and what is the root? Like, where did it start? And what was it in the beginning? And how did it evolve into, like, Hinduism or Buddhism, or, like, Christianity is, like, how many, like 10,000 different, like, churches or something like that, with different beliefs, like, based on the same book. But it was just a thought. So one day I was in India, in Kolkata, and I was walking down the street, and there's this man selling books, and there's a book that's called Jesus in India. And I was like, wow, that's really, like, interesting. Like, I'm not really into Jesus, but I mean, that, like, did he go to India? So I don't know how, but two or so years later, I had the book in my Kindle. So not mystically, like not magically, but somehow I don't remember buying it, but somehow I had downloaded it, and I started reading it. And there's this book called "The Secret Life of Jesus Christ," written by Nicholas Notovich. And Notovich was an adventurer in the late I don't even know how to say it in English, in 1880-ish. He traveled in northern India, and he happened upon this monastery where he broke his leg, and then the monks there healed. They were Tibetan monks, so they were healing him. And then one day, one of the head monks said, "Hey, do you know that your Jesus was here?" And this man said, "No, what do you mean?" And he said, "No, we have these scrolls." And he started reading the scrolls, and the scrolls are about those years that are missing from the Bible. So from Jesus when he's 12 years old until he's 30, and tells about the journey he took from Palestine or Israel. I mean, in those days, it wasn't even a country. It was Galilee. And he traveled then through Asia, through like Persia and Afghanistan, Pakistan, today's Pakistan, and ended up in a Buddhist monastery, studied Buddhism. Then he continued walking, studied Hinduism and all that. So this man, Nicholas Notovich, then he came back to Europe, and he had friends in high places and like cardinals and who knew the Pope. And he said, "Look, you can't believe what I found. Like, now we know what happened. Like, Jesus went to India, he studied Hinduism and Buddhism. Like, isn't that great?" And then the cardinal said, like, "No, you like, yeah, you should, you shouldn't talk about this. So if you're looking for money, like, we can give you money, like, we'll give you money, but like, don't talk about this." But this guy who was so, like, he thought it was so fantastic, this thing. So he went ahead and published a book anyways. And throughout the years, then the church tried to prove him wrong, that he was telling a lie. They sent people to this monastery. And even in the monastery, the monks said, like, "We don't know what you're talking about. He wasn't here." So they came back and said, you were lying. But then after, like in the 50 years after that, many other people have went to the monastery and have seen these scrolls. Like there's 5 people, like a Swami and British and an American lady went there together I think in the 1940s or something like that. And I think I believe, this is my thought, but I believe that if you go there and say, "Hey, show me the scrolls, the monks are going to be like, "No, we don't want that kind of attention." But if you go there and if you stay there for a while, and you make friends with them, then maybe they will show it to them. And now they say that the scrolls are locked in, in these cabinets in Lhasa, and they won't be opened again until the Tibet is free again. So who knows? I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying this is like the truth, but it's an interesting story. And the more I started reading into it and researching it, the more it started making sense. And then I saw how all the religions, or those religions from that day, had so much in common. And there's even like certain phrases that are almost identical from the Samaveda and the Bhagavad Gita and the Bible. So yeah, it makes sense. So then I was like, this is what I want to write about. So I've been writing since I was little, but I never published anything. But everything came together. And so last year I published this book called The Transmigrant. It's a fiction book, and it's about Jesus traveling through Asia, studying Buddhism, Hinduism, and how he evolves and then finally brings it all together and, comes back to Galilee and then goes down to Judea and starts teaching what, not exactly Christianity, but what Christianity was in those days before it got distorted.
Well, that's wonderful. What a fascinating story. Fascinating story. What obstacles or internal fears have you had to overcome, both in writing the book, but also in some of the other things you've been doing?
Well, I think in writing the book, it was, who am I to write about Jesus? I'm not religious. I'm not a scholar. How can I make this fit together and show his involvement? And somehow it did. On a personal level, fears, I heard another one of your podcasts when you were talking about the fears that people have that you coach. And I believe I have a little bit of fear of success. I don't have a lot of fears. I have changed jobs a gazillion times. I've started again from the bottom. I've worked myself up. But what I do want, what I really, 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 really want is to be a full-time author and healer. And so I'm can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it? And yes, I'm going to do it. But I have to overcome the fear of, I don't think it's fear of failure, because I think that I can do it. I think the fear is, oh my God, what if it blows up, and what am I going to do? And how is my relationship with my husband going to be if I get too successful, and, all that.
Well, but it's a little bit like what you mentioned earlier. It's just one of those stepping stones, right?
Yeah.
And if this step is just not the greatest step, you just take another step.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you'll never know if you don't just, jump off the diving board.
I think that what I've done right, in a sense, is that I've taken it slow. So I published a book last year, and I've been learning about, I've been writing the second book that should come out end of next year. That's kind of a sequel, but while doing this and learning how to market a book and learning how to write blogs and write newsletters, I've learned what my brand is, right?
Right.
So when I started, I thought oh, this is historical fiction. This is not religious fiction, because I'm I don't want to be a religious fiction writer. But now I'm oh, the awards have won. They're all religious fiction. And now I'm okay, it's spiritual fiction, but it is about religion. So, okay, I'm fine with that. And now I know how I can connect it with my healing work and my channeling work. And now I know that's who I am, and that's what makes me happy, and that's what I should be to the outside world. Because if I had quit working a year ago, I would have not known what to do. Mm-hmm. So I feel so much safer now in having tried, have taken failed and failed and failed. Failure is fine. It's you have
a great teacher.
Yeah, you have to fail if you want to succeed.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so, and it sounds like you're now starting to get comfortable in your own purpose.
Exactly.
And isn't, gosh, that's very few people actually end up that way.
Yeah.
Very few of us actually even are aware enough to even identify that we have a purpose. We kind of just float through it the way we think it's supposed to go. And we work 50 weeks so we can go on a 2-week vacation. And that's how we think life is supposed to look. But it doesn't have to look like that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you another question, but if you wanted to add something to that, please.
No, I forgot what I was going to say now.
So what philosophy do you live by? What guides your life?
My life is guided by gratitude. I've made gratitude a huge part of my life, and I wake up every morning and I think about what I'm grateful for. I When I go to sleep, I think through the day, and I think about everything that happened, and say thank you for everything that went well and everything I have. And I've been doing this for years, but I've really I read this book called The Magic, uh, which is written by the same person who wrote The Secret, but it's all about. So that's kind of like I've always done this gratitude thing, but now I really do it. And the more you're grateful for what you have, the more you will get of what you have. So, and the more you're grateful, you lift your vibration, and then you become happier and you become a better person. Little things don't bother you. I mean, I live in New York City. I take the subway every day. I take the subway with all these crazy people. And, there's a lot of fantastic things about New York, but subway rides are not one of them. So every day I ride to work with all these people, and the trains stop, and they stop in the tunnel, or it's like summer and the AC doesn't work. And I just close my eyes, and then I just, go into trance, and I'm just like, oh, these people, and I try to think of all the positive things and being grateful, and like sending this like energy out to the people around me. So that's kind of my guiding light, is gratitude. And as I said before, like I've traveled a lot. Like I've been to more than 75 countries, and I've been in countries where people, I've seen kids who have pants, but the pants are broken in the crotch. There's like people have nothing, like nothing. They've never, like, think about it, like they've never slept with clean sheets. They've never had a shower. You look at them and see, I mean, they're still, happy. They're, they're
Very.
great. They're
Yeah.
grateful for what they have, but you come home and you think like, I have all this, and then I complain about like, oh, the shop was out of the cereal that I like, or like really silly things. Or, oh, I have to work late tonight. Well, I have a job, and I mean, I have a great job that I actually enjoy, with people that I enjoy working with. But I have a partner that I love, that I'm grateful to, even when he annoys me. Then it happens sometimes. Then I think like, then I go back in my mind and think like, oh no, I'm grateful, but look how wonderful it is that I have a husband that does this for me and that for me, and who loves me and who tells me he loves me. And the more I focus on that, the more I get back of that. So the more happy we're together. And then I'm like, oh my God, we're too happy now. So going back to the like fear of success and fear of like,
Right.
I do believe you can have it all,
Yes.
actually.
We all can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
do you think has been your greatest role model?
Hmm. I don't know. I love Oprah Winfrey because I think she brings in the good in people, and um, she just seems to see something deep, and like she kind of can pull out the good things um, in people. She's like all, like she includes everyone, and I think she's a great teacher in that sense. And even though she has this big empire and talk show and everything like that, I don't see her as somebody who is selfish. I think she's a giver, but I might be wrong, but that's how I see her. I love the Dalai Lama. Like I love him so
Mm-hmm.
much. Who else? yeah, Deepak Chopra.
Yeah. He is
Uh,
amazing.
there,
He is just, I had the pleasure of spending 10 days, 9 days with Deepak a couple of weeks ago at a silent retreat in Monterey, California, right on the beach.
yeah,
And every night he came and did satsang with us. And in typical Deepak fashion, he was fascinating to listen to. I mean, he's just so brilliant and so well read, and he knows so much about so many different things. You could sit and just listen to him for hours.
yeah.
And he's so nice. I never realized he was so tiny. He's like
Oh, really?
5'4".
It's my height almost.
Yeah, he's really tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
But
only 5'2".
so I don't have like role models like that, like one person or like somebody I follow and read everything by. But I see, when I see people who are kind, like I really admire that. Like I aspire to be kind, and I think I am most of the time, but not always. But that's what I aspire to. That's what I want to be. Like if I could be kind to everyone all the time, that would be enough for me.
It's funny. Let me just ask you this funny question. But if you were kind all the time to everyone, how would you know you were kind? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You have nothing.
Yeah.
It's like in Buddhism, of course, they say we all must suffer, right? Because
Yeah.
in the suffering that we understand when we're not. So if I
Yeah.
have this really bad toothache, and then I go to the dentist and get it fixed, and I never realize how good it feels to not have the toothache.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
but then again, do you need to know you're kind, or are you just like, oh yeah, do you need to know it? Like,
I don't know. Deepak would say kindness is a construct. It's a label we put on something.
Yeah.
Right, like time.
Yeah.
Time is just a construct.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. As is money, by the way, that people don't understand.
Yep. Money
But
sure is. Yeah.
Money does not exist.
No. So what suggestions do you have for anyone that's listening that might feel like they're stopped from living a life that they say they really want, or a life that they love?
Start small. Test it out. Start with something. If you like singing, then take a singing lesson. If you can't afford it, do it on YouTube. Start small. Take it step by step. There's always something you can do that will bring you further. And I mean, I'm very much, of that, like my evolvement has been like that. I've taken small steps. Sometimes it leads the other way, or whatever, but you learn from everything. And if you have a goal, and even if you don't know what the goal is, you don't really, you want to do something different, and it might be, oh, I want to do something with children. Start with something, do something, and then see where that leads you. Everyone's going to fail, and we all fail. Like there's no way of going through life and not failing. Everyone who's successful has failed. So do something, do it a few times, then see, did you like it? Like, what about it did you like? Then do more of the things that you did like about it. Just evolve like that. Like take baby steps. As long as you're, like I always say when I do readings, like channeling, spiritual readings, I say you have to set it in motion. Like you cannot get anywhere by standing still. Like start something, put it in motion. Like when you think of a wheel, if a wheel stands still, it's hard to get it moving. But if it's already rolling, it's easier to get it like to go faster. So just do it little by little, and feel your way about until you find your way. And then you will see the more you do of it, the more it's going to expand.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's great advice. And where can people get in touch with you? How can they find you or learn more about you?
They can go to my website, thetransmigrate.com, and learn more about my book, about me, get in touch with me. I have this, if you sign up for my spiritual reader newsletter, then you get this novella that I wrote called The Virgin of Galilee. And then you can check it out and see. It's free, so you can check it out and see if you like my writing. And then you can write now, actually, but that's time limited. There's a marketing campaign where my book is 99 cents until the 30th of September. But I don't know when this podcast is going to come out.
Yeah, it's going to come out like in late
Later.
October.
Yeah.
So wonderful. Well, do you have anything else you want to add? Any other words of inspiration or advice that you would give anybody to live a life illuminated?
Yes, I would like people to smile more, because a smile is so simple to do. And when you smile at somebody and you smile from your heart, even if it's, the person holding up the door or you're buying your coffee, smile and just pause and smile, and you'll get a smile back. And that already makes your day better, makes their day better. It's so easy, and it really brings so much positivity in the world. It
doesn't cost anything.
No,
I think we feel better when we smile, right? I mean,
yeah,
even
exactly.
if you're not in the greatest mood, if you just smile, you feel better.
Yeah, actually, when you're in a bad mood, you should fake smile, and you actually raise your vibration and you get happier. I've tried that. Yeah, it works.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure spending a little time with you today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been fantastic.
Well, and I hope to get back in touch with you and hear more about this next book.
Yeah,
as you move along in this next stepping stone. All right, Christy. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Okay, bye.